Welcome to Dark Horse Auto and Diesel. Today I'm going to show you how to change the oil in your PTU and also why it's so important to do this. I'm going to go over the why part first and then we'll get to the how. So if you already know why and you just want to know how to do it, or you're just tired of hearing my voice, you can skip ahead to whatever time is up about there on the screen, and that's when I get into actually changing it. Otherwise, sit back and maybe learn a thing or two. PTU stands for Power Transfer Unit, and basically what it is what Ford calls the transfer case on front biased all-wheel drive vehicles of theirs. So things like this, a Ford Edge, Taurus, Fusion, Explorer, as long as it's the right year, just any front biased all-wheel drive Ford is going to have one of these things, and they're all pretty much the same. Now, if you're one of the rare people that has actually read any part of the owner's manual, you'll know that it says in there that the power transfer unit has basically a lifetime fill. It says that you never need to change or check the fluid unless it's leaking or it's been submerged in water. That's a load of crap. I mean, maybe not a total load of crap, because they do say it's a lifetime fill, which means that the fluid is good for the life of the component. Well, obviously any oil, I don't care what it is, eventually is going to break down and wear out, and I'll show you why here in a little bit. These things are especially prone to that. But eventually the oil will break down and that will cause a component failure. Well, I mean, technically it did last the life of the component, despite the fact that that's the cause of failure. So it's anything lifetime fill. A lot of new cars have transmissions that are lifetime fill. These PTUs, for example. It's really deceptive, I think. And it's just a way for them to get higher ratings in maintenance costs for all the new car review places, because maintenance costs is one of the things that they look at for the lifetime of the vehicle, and the lower those costs are, the higher rating the vehicle gets, so people buy them. Now with these PTUs, some people even recommend changing the fluid out as often as 30,000 miles. That might be a bit excessive, but maybe not. A lot of it's going to depend on your driving conditions and stuff. Most people actually drive what's considered severe in the owner's manual, but they just don't realize it. Stop and go driving, unless you're just straight highway, you're probably considered severe. So I think for most people, 30,000 would probably be a good point to change it. You could probably go out as far as 50 and still be perfectly fine. I mean, obviously it's not a huge concern because some of these things have over 100,000 miles on them and have never been changed, although the fluid definitely looks like it, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. This particular vehicle here obviously has 156,000 miles on it, and I'm pretty sure, I can pretty much guarantee that PTU oil has never been changed. So it's going to be real interesting to see what that crap looks like when it comes out. Excessive heat is one of the biggest contributors to the breakdown of oil and premature failure. Now, look at where this PTU is. This thing right here, my hand's on, this is the PTU. It's the drive shaft heading towards the back. My feet are down near the front of the vehicle. Look at what's around this. You got your engine, you got a transmission, you got exhaust manifold over here, a catalytic converter right next to this thing. The rest of the exhaust is right down here underneath it. Where this thing is positioned, there's very little airflow going to it to help keep it cool, but it's just trapped in all of these hot things here. Common sense is going to say that there's going to be a lot of excessive heat in here. So now we're going to go ahead and go into the part where we change this oil out. And if you had skipped ahead earlier because you were tired of hearing my voice, well, sucks for you, because I talked during this part too. So the stupid part about these things is that most of them don't even have a drain plug. So what you have to do, try to show you where I'm oriented here. So, coming in from the front, right up in there, that, I can't even freaking get my hand up there right now. That's the fill plug right there. And that's actually where we're going to end up taking the fluid out of. So we're going to have to get a suction gun and run a hose down in there and actually suck this fluid out. I've heard of people drilling a hole in the bottom of this PTU and threading in a plug for it. If I were the owner of this vehicle, I would highly consider doing that, but it's not mine, so I'm not gonna take that chance of screwing anything up in that process. So what you need to do is get a 3/8 ratchet and take that plug out right there. And depending on what you're working on, you might have better luck at different angles. I'm working on an edge here, so it's actually easier just to come back behind and get to it. Not that any position is going to be easy. Here's another view from the back side. There's actually quite a bit of room to get up in here from this angle. So I got the ratchet on there. As I'm filming this, I'm actually using what's on the screen of my phone to see what the heck I'm doing. And this stuff already looks pretty nasty. There's all kinds of silvery stuff just kind of oozing out. All right. I've seen worse already, but we'll see what it looks like once I start actually sucking it out of there. Plug here is actually a magnet. And this one is much better than some of the other ones that I've seen. And the fluid actually still has a little bit of color to it. The last one I did on one of these on a Fusion was just straight black. But, I mean, you can kind of see the color of that, the shininess. It's not good. Now we'll grab our hose for our suction gun and stick it in the hole. Giggity. And then you have to kind of move it around a little bit to try to find the right spot. And you'll feel it drop down further in there. Because we want to get this down as far as we can get it. Giggity. You want to get this in as deep as you can. Giggity, giggity, giggity. That's far enough for now. Then I'll get it hooked up to the air compressor here. So mine's air operated. And then as it's sucking, we can move the hose around and get it deeper. Giggity, giggity, giggity. Now this, I am proud of this. This is just the pinnacle of tool making and perfection. Definitely not made out of whatever random shit I could find laying around the shop. But it'll work. I wanted to do this so we could see what the fluid actually looks like coming out of there. So while I'm sitting right here, I think I've got it deep enough in there to maybe get some fluid out. Maybe not. Oh, yeah, we got some going in down there. Just let that run for a minute, and when we start hearing it suck air, we'll move it around a little bit more and try to get a little closer to the bottom if it's not already there. But you're never going to get all the fluid out of here, but we can at least get most of it. Here is some, possibly all of the fluid that was in there. Not really sure yet. I was having trouble getting any more out, but that looks terrible. This is 75 140 gear oil, and that's got a mostly clear color to it, slightly amber. I'll do a side-by-side comparison here in a minute. But that's nasty. And if that is in fact all the fluid that was in there, it's probably a good thing that we're doing this, because it doesn't hold much. It only holds about a quart. So that means any leak whatsoever can be pretty catastrophic pretty quick. Now to refill it, you're going to want to get about a quart of 75 140 gear oil. And then this is going to be your best friend here. Just a little pump gun, because good luck getting a funnel up in there with the bottle. And you'll just take your hose and jam it up in the hole up in there. Giggity! And start pumping. And then once you see it start running out, that's when you know it's full. I forgot to mention this when I was doing the original recording of this video, so now I'm doing it during the editing process. But on early build 2007 model years of the Edge and the MKX, which are basically the same thing, the filling procedure is going to be slightly different than every other vehicle as far as my knowledge goes. So what you're supposed to do is get a zip tie. They call it a tie strap in the service bulletin. But you're supposed to measure up 1 3/4 inches from the tip of the zip tie. And then you're supposed to bend it to 90 degrees. And then 1/4 inch from the tip of the zip tie up, you're supposed to make another mark. And the fluid level is supposed to be somewhere between the end of the zip tie and that mark that you made 1/4 inch up from there. So basically, you need to have your fluid level somewhere between 1 3/4 inches and 1.5 inches below the bottom of the fill plug. And the service bulletin specifically says not to fill it up to the bottom of the fill plug because it will force fluid out. So I imagine at that point you're gonna have a freaking mess. Yep. Definitely running out. It's full. Now let's pull the hose out and stick our drain plug back in. And I'll put the torque spec for this up on the screen. I'm just going with snug. You probably won't be able to get a torque wrench up in here very easily anyway. You can also look and see where it was snugged up to originally and just try to match about that. This here's the fluid, obviously, that I pulled out of the PTU. I've seen worse, but it's still definitely not good, especially when you compare it to new fluid straight out of the bottle. Now you're going to tell me that that stuff never needs changed? Yeah, I'm not buying it. It may last the life of the component, but this is the reason the component fails. And as with any job, the last and most important step is celebration beer. And we're not going to worry about the grill smoking in here. And we're not going to worry about that part either for outdoor use only. It's fine.